2019. We thank you for the food that we had and for fellowship, but most of all, we're thankful for your son, Jesus. In your name, amen. 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 All right, before we actually get started with this conversation, I want to just verbalize my appreciation for the youth leadership team that is pouring into your students' lives every Wednesday night and then some. So if Jordan, Bob and Judy, Leslie, if you guys would just stand up real quick, and thanks. These guys are awesome. If you don't know any of these four people, some of these guys have been doing this longer than I have, and stuff. It's just a blessing to have their support and their help every Wednesday night, and even then some when we have other activities too. So thank you so much, guys. We're doing what you guys do. Parents, thank you guys so much too. 5.5 years I've been here at Asbury. It's been super, super cool. Let me dispel a couple rumors about what this, I'm going to shut down a couple rumors about what this meeting is and what it's not. Okay? This is not me leaving. Okay? That's not what this meeting is about. All right? I know I've heard all sorts of stuff. Your kids come up with the wildest things. And it is not us changing nights. Okay? It's neither of those two things. Okay? Those are the first two things that I think people defaulted to. But rather, but it is still a dynamic transition and movement within the life of Asbury Church as a whole, and directly in the life of VOX Student Ministries. Leslie's videotaping this because not all of our parents/students could be here today. And so if you would like to refer back to this conversation later, you will be able to do so sometime this week through the church website, asburychurch.org, or the Asbury Church app, because we're going to put the video on both of those sources there for people to see it later on if they're not able to be here with us today, or for people to refer back to as well. Okay? I'm going to ask for 5, 8. Okay, so I'm going to ask for you three to stand up. Okay? Natalie, Kate, Ren, go ahead and stand up. I'm going to ask for the Doyles here to stand up. All 5 of you, please. Okay, there's 8. Okay? And then I'm going to ask for, Mike and Ben, why don't you guys stand up for me? Okay? All right. So let me read something to you guys real quick. Statistics reveal that over 50% of high school graduates, okay, leave the church and walk away from their faith during the college years or shortly thereafter. So I'm going to ask for 5 of you guys to sit down. Okay, let's Doyle kids, go ahead and have a seat. Okay, and Kate and Natalie, why don't you guys? Oh, you want to sit down too? Okay, you guys sit. Right, yeah, you guys stay up. Yeah, and then Natalie and Kate, you guys sit down. Okay, so the 5 that just sat down represent the ones out of 10, let's just say, of students that have graduated high school and are remaining in their faith. These 5 right here are representing the ones after high school that have chosen to walk away from their faith and or the church after their high school years. Now I'm going to ask for Ren. Go ahead and sit down. Okay? So now we have 4 left, right? Here's further study. Further studies are also showing this. They're showing that 20% of college students who leave the church plan on doing so during high school. Okay? So with intentionality. That would mean that the 4 remaining, okay, that have walked away from their faith had absolutely no intention to do so. Okay? Now there's a lot of different factors there. It could have just happened. Maybe they had a lot of homework. Maybe they got a job. Maybe maybe they got, they're living in an apartment while they're going to college, and Sunday's the only day they could work, or whatnot. I mean, there's a lot of different things. Okay? But this study here, the 50% thing is very well known in youth circles. What we're just discovering now is that 20% of that 50% left with intentionality. They said, I'm done with this church thing. I'm just done with it. And the other, 80% of that 50% are like, I don't know what happened. It caught me off guard. But I would venture, you go ahead and sit down. Thank you guys for being my object lesson. People that left the church. But I immediately, when I heard this information, it angers me. It saddens me. I cry. I shake. I pray. I yell. I wrestle. I'm like, oh, it's just so frustrating for me. And the reason why is because I believe that we love students too much for this to be okay. Yet, if things remain the same, if we continue doing what has gotten us, and when I say us, I mean the American church, if you will, here is never going to get us there. Okay? If we keep doing what we always have done, we're always going to get what we've always gotten. Okay? So we will never get to where we want to go. Okay? By remaining in what we've always done. Okay? This, obviously, we have a goal in mind when it comes to youth ministry, when it comes to church and things like that. I believe that the goal for every church and every youth ministry is to equip young people to be lifelong followers of Jesus. Okay? I've been doing this for about 8 years. 5.5 I'm here at Asbury. Other years in some volunteer type roles, stuff like that in Valley Center and Delano, the Delano part of Wichita and things like that, to a total of about 8 years of total experience. And in my 8 years of experience in youth ministry, I am becoming confident of one thing more than anything else. And that's, generally speaking, youth ministry works, but youth group doesn't. So over the last few months, I have wrestled with God in ministry more than I ever had before. And it's caused me to ask myself some very, very serious questions, scary questions. And I am not okay with answers that I'm getting. I ask myself questions like, in the 5.5 years that I've been here, are students at Asbury walking out of high school with a stronger, more resolute relationship with Jesus Christ? And I don't like the answer that I come to. There are always exceptions, right, to these questions. I have to, obviously, in 5.5 years, there's been so many students that have come through here at Asbury Central and then the church that was Asbury West, and how I used to be the middle school youth pastor over both campuses. I have interacted and kind of tried to help spur on the faith of a lot of different students in the 5.5 years I've been here. But generally speaking, when I ask myself the question is, when this student comes to contact with VOX Student Ministries and leaves high school, are they leaving with a stronger faith in Jesus? And the answer is usually no. That scares me. It breaks my heart. It makes me wonder sometimes, even on a personal level, myself, candidly, where did I go wrong? You know? But then I also think of the exceptions. Like I said, there's exceptions to that, okay? It's very important to realize when we talk about numbers and statistics and things like that, that we're not talking about numbers and statistics, we're talking about your kids. You know what I mean? Okay? So I don't take that lightly, all right? I know analytically and things like that, statistically, people can get so caught up in that numbers thing that they forget that there's actually like a soul behind each number that's represented in that number. But I see exceptions too. You know, if I was to look through the list of every life that came into contact with VOX Student Ministries in the last 5.5 years that I've been here, I look at the norm, okay, and then I look at the exceptions. And when I look at the exceptions, I find one common denominator. The parents love Jesus, okay, and for lack of better words, are hell-bent on being the primary spiritual influencer in that kid's life, okay? So in the midst of wrestling with these questions, God speaks, and I choose to go with what he speaks with, or I go in opposition. I always seek to go, and I would highly encourage all of us, anytime God speaks to you into a direction, that ought to be the direction that we go. And so what comes from this direction that God has given me is a dynamic culture shift in how we do student ministry here at Asbury Church. And frankly, it's a dynamic culture shift in how student ministry is done in America, to just be real. This is a direction that emphasizes integrating and connecting students into the greater body of Asbury Church, all the while empowering you as the parent to become the youth pastor of your student. Today the whole purpose of this meeting is to announce these significant changes to our student ministry here within the life of Asbury Church that will start in January of 2019. I wanted to start them at the beginning of the school year, but Pastor Rick slowed me down. And that's okay. I'm glad he did. First things first, because of the nature of these changes and what it's going to mean for me, but also in a way to proactively communicate this to the entire church body, One of those things that Pastor Rick and I are currently looking at is requesting my job title be changed. Okay? It doesn't mean that I changed my responsibilities. Okay? But my job title will be changed from youth pastor here at Asbury Church to integration pastor. Okay? I ask myself some questions when I think about what does this look like and stuff. And I realize that you could walk into different churches in the city of Wichita, and you will find a youth group of 4 to 10, and you will find some that have hundreds of kids in there too. But my question always is, and this is where I've gone, because when you're so young in ministry, it's really easy to play the numbers game and let that be like your driving factors. Oh man, I want to see like this room filled with teenagers and stuff like that. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that desire. I've just started going beyond that, and now I want to see stuff like how many of these students are becoming lifelong followers of Jesus. Like that's become my greater concern. More than filling up a room with hundreds of kids or whatnot. I want to see as many kids become lifelong followers of Jesus. And that's it. Youth ministry, by definition, is offering the spiritual formation that a student needs to strengthen and resolve their walk with Jesus. A large aspect of spiritual formation is commitment to being an active part of the body of Christ. Yet, as I mentioned above previously in the statistics, show that students becoming an active part of the body of Christ is something that we all would want. It's something we verbally would recognize and say, yes, I would love to see that in my students' lives. But at the same time, though, too, we're seeing so little of it in action. It's not happening in the lives of young people as they transition out of high school and into adulthood. So doing ministry with students within the parameter of the typical youth group format, we're starting to find actually isolates students from others in the church and isolates other people in the church from the students. I find it far more excellent to place a heavier influence on integrating these students into the life of the church for the sake of discipleship, for the sake of a lifelong commitment to Jesus. I want to see every student who we come into contact with accept Jesus and then grow to become intertwined with the church. And the fact of the matter is we're not as successful in this as we should be. And like I said before, what we have done to get us here is not going to get us there. So I believe that the solution to this is twofold. I believe that the first fold and step one to this is to develop a student ministry that emphasizes student integration into the church body, thus leading to organic discipleship, organic mentorships, and things like that. That would be mine and my adult leadership team's responsibility to oversee that. However, it wouldn't be our responsibility to actually put it in action. A change like this, in this movement of this youth ministry where it's going in 2019, requires commitment from, honestly, the entire church body. And we'll go into more details in that here in just a moment. My greater role would then take on is I want to spend time with you guys, parents. I want to empower you. I want to encourage you. I want to love on you. I want to have coffee with you. I want to have lunch with you. I want to have dinner with you. And I just want to just talk and just encourage you guys as the spiritual leaders and the spiritual role models of your home. The fact of the matter is this. We have 7th through 12th grade students here at VOX Student Ministries, right? You guys gave birth to your kids. So you guys knew them long before I did, right? And you guys will have contact with them long after I will. So the real honest truth is that I get 6 years, okay? Lord willing, you get 40, 50, something like that. You guys get, the point is, you guys get so much more opportunities to be the spiritual former and honestly, the youth pastor of your student's life, all right? And we'll talk on this just a little bit here in just a moment, some more. But here's the other reality. So we talked statistics earlier. Here's another statistic as well. Parents that are involved in the Christian church nowadays in America, 89% of them know that they're supposed to be the spiritual primary role model for their student's life, but they don't know how to be. Okay? That may be you, that may not be you. And either way, honestly, is fine. Okay? That's the reality. I've always desired to not be the primary spiritual role model for your kid's life. Now, whether I am or not, I mean, that's not my choice. I mean, it's ultimately, that's up to the student and up to you and things like that. I've always tried to see myself more as a supplement, if you will. So I want to, honestly, my end goal would be, and my greatest desire is, I'm just backing up here with the Word of God, what you guys are talking about at home, you know, and things. I feel like that's where faith sticks the most into a person's life, for life, is when they see it in action, when it's verbalized on the home front. So like I said, I believe that this challenge's solutions is twofold. The first one is to integrate these students into the lives of the church in a greater way, and then to empower parents to be the primary spiritual role models over their students' life. So the rest of this conversation is going to require that you guys not pick and choose. The rest of this conversation is not a buffet. Okay? You have to take in the whole meal and all morsel of it. That's why I'm encouraging you, if you don't feel like you're getting all of this right now in this conversation, please watch the video over again as often as you need to and as much as you need to in order to understand the full picture. Because if you just get bits and pieces, something about this is going to kind of be like, I don't know about this. So, all right, that goes for you too, students. Okay, we gotta listen to this whole thing. All right. Okay, so here's how I think that we can make this happen. All right, I don't know if you guys realize this, but churches fully are funded and fully operate at the donations and the giving of people. Okay. I plan up until this point. I've planned every event that VOX does anywhere between 6 weeks to 6 months in advance. Okay? I'm talking all of them. I'm talking camps. I'm talking even if we're just gonna, like, I don't know, try out different things and see if they're good ice cream toppings. You know what I mean? Or whatever. That is stuff that is all planned well in advance. Okay? Honestly, if we were to just go watch a movie at the theater, okay? Traditionally, in my job, that isn't something that had been pre-planned 6 weeks to about 6 months in advance. Okay? And things. I feel I want to be financially responsible with the donations that people give us. Okay? I believe that planning a movie night 6 months in advance is not being as financially responsible as I could be. And then part of my job is to be the youth pastor here, but a part of my job too is to shepherd this flock known as Asbury Church. And part of that is we need to be responsible with the money that we're using and how we're spending it. And is it being used towards some spiritual significance and impact and things like that. And so I want to spend a lot less time financially and a lot less time and resources and energy on these kind of events, and instead replace them with quarterly spiritual formation trips, if you will. So like weekend retreats, summer camp, things like that. If I have just for an example, $4,000 youth budget, I want to use that youth budget and I want to split it 4 ways, $1,000, okay, for each event, in order to get as many students at that event as possible, and to make it as excellent and as amazing as possible for those students. Because at the end of the day, when a kid graduates high school and enters into adulthood, it's going to be those type of events that are going to have had the opportunity and the ability to make the most spiritual impact on that student's life, and not us going to, a movie or something like that. The other reality is this too, is youth ministry is like the only ministry in the church where we expect everybody to be friends with one another. And I know that sounds funny. It might even bother you a little bit that I said that, but that's the truth. Youth group is the only group in a church where we expect everybody to be, hey, let's go to a movie together because we're supposed to love everybody and things like that. When you and I both know, we all know, is that we can care for each other and love for each other because we're all part of the body of Christ, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to go hang out afterwards. That's not the way friendships and relationships work. Yet, that's what we're demonstrating, right? And we expect everybody, we're going to be friends with one another with part of the youth group together and things like that. So I'm not saying that fun things will not happen Okay? What I'm saying is that the fun things need to happen naturally, and they need not be so forced. I believe that when we force these fun things to happen and everybody to be, super cool friends and hang out outside of the church building with one another and things like that, is where we kind of walk on the borderline of being financially irresponsible with the tithes and the offerings that people are giving so willingly out of the goodness of their hearts. So I want you to hear that, okay? We're going to do a lot less of these fun events, but that doesn't mean that fun events won't happen. It just means that students, you guys are going to do those fun events with the people that you enjoy being around, that you're friends with, and things like that, inside this youth group as well as outside this youth group. It's a natural approach to friendship, where we have an unnatural one, actually, right now. The other thing is, too, is I want to hear me out. Is we're going to make our Wednesday night, okay? This is where the bulk of the changes are going to occur that are going to affect you guys as students. Wednesday night, you will be in here for 30 minutes, okay? So here's what we're doing. Right now, we meet on Wednesday nights from 6 to 7:15, right? Okay? We're going to meet in here from 6 to 6:30, okay? And then the rest of the night will go from 6:30 to 7:30 or 7:45. Depending on what it is your student does after that. More on that here in just a moment. Okay? But this brief 30-minute service on Wednesday night is going to include some elements of worship, whether it be live music every once in a while, prayer stations, testimonies, things like that, communion once a month, a brief game, and then a 5-minute go get 'em encouragement type devotional. Okay? So like a 5-minute challenge type thing. There's a couple reasons for that. One of those is honestly, is our attention span as high school and middle school students isn't really as long as an adult's is. Not yet. It's getting there, but not yet. Okay? So if I can hit home like a 5-minute, boom, truth bomb, on it, I think it's going to be a lot more impactful, and it's going to fit within the parameters of the attention span time. So therefore, more content is brought in. After that, so after 6:30, okay, students would then participate in a few things. And students, this is awesome because this is where you guys get total freedom over the rest of your experience that evening, okay? You would either then participate in a Wednesday night zone class, meaning you would sign up for one of our adult Bible studies, right? Because after high school, that's the stuff that's expected of you. And you get to be a part of those things. You could serve in Awana. So you could be a co-leader in a room, or you can help out with game time, or any of those options. You could take a basics of the Christian faith class. So right now, after I get back from my surgery through the rest of the year, I'm working on getting a few more people, hands involved in this from Asbury Church. One of those is I'm going to be looking for a teacher that could teach the basic of our faith. Kind of like for lack of better words, almost like what's that called? That class that Methodist kids take a lot. Confirmation. I was going to say confession, but I like the confirmation class where it talks about the basic theology and the basic tenets of our faith and identity in Christ and things like that. Or we're also going to have some adult leaders that are going to be kind of in here at these tables here in this room that are available for you guys to be mentored by. So if you have something personal going on in your life and you need somebody, you just want to talk to somebody about it, then there's people on hand here that you could trust that will listen, that can offer some wisdom and advice, can pray over you, and they'll even play Fortnite with you while you're talking if you want to. Right? You can show them how to play while you guys are talking. I understand that one of the first things that came to mind when I started making this all a reality, in myself and typing it out and things like that, is what's going to happen if a student brings a guest. Okay, then if that was the case, then myself or one of our adult leaders would then take the student who brought the guest as well as the guest and pull them aside and take them through kind of a crash course on what VOX Student Ministries is, tied in with a gospel presentation. So then every student that comes in here as a guest gets a chance to receive Jesus Christ, and gets a chance then to clearly understand who we are as a youth ministry. Adult leaders, the ones that we have now, as well as others that we will be getting as well, are going to play a big part in this. What I mean by that is that if one of you as an adult leader is not helping in here as a mentor or teaching one of these classes or something like that, you will be actually roaming about the building the rest of our time together, and you will be catching these students doing things right. So we're not hall monitors, okay? It's if Michael decides that he's going to serve in game time in Awana and he saw Rook trip and fall, Mike runs over and is like, hey, Rook, are you okay? And gives him an ice pack and pats him on the back and things like that. One of my adult leaders catches that. You know, I think it's about time that we start catching this generation doing things right and things. Well, that was really, really cool of Michael to do. So Bob saw it. So Bob's going to walk over to Michael and be like, man, Michael, that was so cool, man. Thank you. Good job. You know, and stuff like that. And build them up in leaders. Okay? Now, here's what's going to happen. This is how it benefits the kid. Okay? Each student gets benefited by this. Okay? You're going to build organic connection and relationships with people in the church that are younger than you, older than you, and the same age as you. Whereas right now, you're building connections with people that you already know that are the same age as you are. Okay? So this is going to broaden your relationships and your friendships. And what's going to come from this? Well, as the church moves forward, okay, in this new mentality of youth ministry as a whole, because remember, this isn't myself and my team doing this with the church's help. This is the church doing this with my team's help. Okay? So as a whole, as we all start doing this together, then what you will start seeing is you will start seeing organic discipleship go on. Okay? So it's not forced discipleship. It's not like, hey, I'm going to pair you up with this person. You guys are going to get together. It's just happening anyway because we're doing life together. Okay? We're doing ministry together. And so discipleship and mentoring and things like that is just going to happen in a natural way. And everybody's going to feel connected. And that's really what the church has always been, and always should have been existing for, and things. This, I will say though, that this evening is fluid, meaning that if we might be the only church in Wichita moving this direction right now, okay? Which means that other churches are going to want to do like their things, and sometimes we do things in unity with other youth groups on Wednesday nights. Which means that we still reserve the right to set aside nights where we can get together with other youth groups and do like worship and prayer nights together. So you have to pull, things of that nature. Sunday morning Bible study, which is here, kind of in this couch area over here at 9:30 every Sunday morning, is going to remain the same. The reason why it would remain the same is because it's not really that different than what an adult would do if they were here at 9:30 in one of the different classes. Okay. The next thing is, the second part that I want to cover is the focus on the parents. So like I said before, close to 9 out of 10 parents of children believe that they're the primary responsible party for teaching their children about religious beliefs and spiritual matters. Okay? 11% of parents out there say that their church is primarily responsible. Okay? So it's kind of the unspoken assumption is that it's on the parents to spiritually invest and build their kid up into what it is that they're going to become. Nearly all parents of children under the age of 13, actually 96% of parents of children under the age of 13, contend that they have the primary responsibility for teaching their children values, like the values and the morality of life. 1% said that their church had that task, and that it was on them. However, related research revealed that a majority of parents do not spend any time during a typical week discussing religious matters or studying religious materials with their children. However, about 2/3 of parents of children who attend religious services or church at least once a month generally take their children with them. Most of those parents are willing to let their church or religious center provide all the direct religious teaching and religious experiences that their children will receive. What this survey data all indicates is that parents generally rely on their church to do all the religious training their children will receive. Parents are not so much unwilling to provide more training to their children. It's just that the church has done a really poor job of equipping you to do so. Okay? So don't feel bad as a parent and you're like, oh man, like that sounds like a horrible. That's not the point. The point is, of all that research, is to show is that traditionally, I would say for at least the last 50 years, the church as a whole has done a poor job at equipping you to be the primary spiritual role model. Generally speaking, you know that you should be, you know that you're supposed to be, you want to be, but nobody has equipped you in how to be. That's on us. And I don't want that. I don't want that for you. I don't want that for me. I don't want that for any student that's going to cross paths with VOX Student Ministries or anything like that. And so that here comes in is the second part of my role. The student integration pastor's role in this new Methodist ministry would be to administer the implementation of the working of this ministry and disciple parents. I want to build relationships with these students by being and also to be a more active part of these students' lives outside of the walls of the church. You see, all this pre-planning for all of these events and all this Wednesday night stuff that we do and all of those things takes an awful lot of chunk of time out of my week. And being a man that's married, that has kids of my own, and my own sanity to worry about, and things like that, which is a much bigger problem than you might think it is. My time is limited, much like a lot of other people's is as well. And so I want to make the most of the time that I have. And I believe that this gives me the freedom and the ability to do so that I can administrate and oversee these students getting tied in with the greater church, pour into you guys as the parents, and free me up even a little bit more to be a part of sporting events and musicals and choir performances and Fortnite tournaments or whatever it is that I could be a part of to rah-rah your kid on with you guys. I believe that these changes are going to redefine our idea of success in ministry. Anytime, generally, when you talk to like a younger buck like me about what success looks like in ministry, it seems like in some way, shape, or form, it always goes back to numbers. And I will validate that to an extent. It is about numbers to a point, but it's more about making disciples. Okay? That's the court that I want to play ball in, is the making disciples court. No matter the amount of students we have, what value are all of those students coming into this building if disciples are not being created? And what if they don't feel as if they are a part of the church? What if they don't feel after high school they have no idea how to do this church thing? And the reason why is because we have become so segregated, if you will, by age groups within the church. And lastly, what if their life isn't being built up in Christ after they graduate high school? Because they don't know how. So at the end of this, I'm going to leave a few minutes for you to come to me. We're not going to do like a formal Q&A session because, like I said, I want to respect everybody's time. But if you have questions today, I'm going to stay behind here for a little bit and things like that for you to ask some of those questions and things like that. Okay? I've talked to some youth pastors all across the country over the phone about implementing this new strategy for ministry. Okay? And you can expect this first year in 2019 for it not to be a well-oiled machine. Okay? They said this is anywhere from, depending on your church culture and how well it's received, it's anywhere from a 1 to 5 year transition. Okay? My hope is to keep it closer to the 1 year as much as possible. But a lot of that like I said, there's a lot more hands in this now than there ever has been before, because we're integrated within the body of Christ here at Asbury. But here's what I think you guys need to know as parents and students. Okay? 1, we will still have youth on Wednesday nights. It's just going to be condensed and much shorter, yet longer in time. That make sense? Okay. All right. Once again, right now 6 to 7:15, starting in January 6 to 7:45. Okay? Which, by the way, means it also releases the same time as Awana. So if you have a kid in Awana, it's no more waiting around 30 minutes, after this gets over for your kid to get out of Awana as well. It's all paired up together. 2, students, I want you to hear this. We are still going to have fun together, okay? Just expect it to be in smaller groups. Just expect it to be stuff that you actually want to do, okay? Like I said before, youth group is the only place in the church where you're expected to hang out with everybody. And that's not the way that friendships work. So it'll be you that comes up with the ways to hang out, and it'll be you to have fun. Okay? We'll just do it together. But it's going to take more creativity and some expression and some ideas on your part. 3, this is an intentional move. So like I said, my job title, I believe, needs to be changed, as well as the duties and the responsibilities of this role. This, like I said before, will be handled and decided upon by Pastor Rick and myself, and then marketed accordingly. The reason why that's important for you guys to know, we have to be intentional about this title. We have to be intentional about every aspect of this. Otherwise, people will think it's just a trend. But it's not a trend. This is a culture shift. All right? So we have to be very intentional about the verbiage and titles and all of those things. Okay? 4, this is a very new idea. Very few churches in America thus far are implementing this integration and home emphasis idea. It's a shift to a faith at home mentality of ministry. Okay? In other words, it's less like come to church and learn how to live out your faith, but rather it's let us empower you and encourage you to live out your faith, and then you make it happen on the home front. You make it happen at school. It's more of a mentality in that regard. Next, many parents know that they shouldn't subcontract their kids' spiritual well-being, but generally speaking, many parents don't know how to make it a priority in the home. Next, I am making you guys the promise right now that anything that I am asking you to make that is a change on the home front for you, I am going to do in my own home. Okay? This isn't me just saying you guys need to change this and then Leslie and I not changing any way that we parent. Okay? We're not perfect. We don't have this figured out either. And so anything that I would be expecting you guys to do at home, devotional time with your kids, prayer times with your kids, anything like that, I vow before you guys right now that we will be doing this in our home as well. Okay? It's not just me saying you need to do it and then me not doing it myself. That's poor leadership. Though this is going to launch in January, it's going to take more time to get it functioning with ease. In other words, this is going to require some patience, space. It's going to require some resources and some grace. It's going to require vision checkups and communication of the vision very, very often, with also space to listen. And then last one too is this is not Kane and his team discipling the students with the church's help. This is the whole church discipling students with Kane and his team's help. And then lastly, as we should always talk about, how does this fit within the vision of Asbury Church and how does this fit in Scripture? I have 2 verses I want to share with you guys before we close in more of this corporate context. Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 1 and 2. These are the commands, decrees, and the laws the Lord your God directed me to teach you to observe in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess. And here's the key part. So that you, your children, and their children after them may fear the Lord your God as long as you live. Psalm 79:13 says this. Then we, your people, the sheep of your pasture, will praise you forever. From generation to generation we will count your praise. And this is what I want. This is what I desire in ministry, is to see the legacy of your family become entwined with who Jesus is. That is my ultimate end goal. My parents were the first generation of my family that started going to church, that started raising their kids up in the church, and things like that, which means, I guess you could say, family-wise, I'm like a second-generation Christian, okay, in my household, all right? So one of my life goals is any child of mine and Leslie's that we have either born together or separately, that their legacy, the impact that they will leave on this life long after they're gone, would be a similar and an identical of a legacy as possible to the one that Jesus Christ left when he left the earth. I want that for